The next morning, the maid brought breakfast to the protagonist's private quarters. Today was the last day. The day the magical flower would wither, and with it the last chance to cure Elon. The girl had to find a solution before the day ended. Elon looked like a zombie, having not slept at all. The young man was weighed down by his thoughts. "What's bothering you?" she asked, urging him to share. Elon hesitated, but then gathered courage to ask a question about what she thought of him. The maid, ever ready to help her master, answered anything he wanted. The protagonist's heart skipped a beat. What should she say? The handsome hero's cheeks flushed. Elon wanted to know the truth about himself. He really counted on it. Lorena admired Elon deeply. He was the most noble, wonderful person she had ever known. Though he bore great pain, he did so with honor and dignity. She truly admired him. After that heartfelt moment, they began breakfast. The protagonist clutched the cutlery, ready to ask Bernard one more question. Where had Lorena been the day before? The maid's answer was less than satisfying. She wandered the mall all day and then met some friends, was not a good enough explanation. But the maid had discovered something crucial. A way to restore Elon's sight. Lorena decided to find out everything herself to confirm it was true. She laughed at the maid's story, but Elon's calm voice interrupted. Such a cure simply did not exist. Even His Highness had tried and failed. Still, Lorena had managed to find a rare plant, a magical flower, said to relieve any ailment if brewed properly. Similar remedies had been tried on Elon before. The recipes must be somewhere. She would ask Beron. Elon was willing to drink the potion, but Lorena shouldn't have too many hopes. He wouldn't drink anything from just anyone. Swallowing her fear, Lorena placed her hand gently on his fingers, ready to sacrifice everything to restore his sight. Their hearts raced together in that moment. Lorena swore to the young man that she would restore his sight no matter the cost, even if it meant harming herself. She squeezed his hand tightly, pouring all her feelings and hopes into that touch. The main character held her still, savouring the moment. Elon pulled his hand back, reminding himself not to fantasize. The decoction might not work. What saddened Lorena most was how grateful Lillian was for her care and devotion, even if the cure failed. Breakfast had to finish quickly. Elon had business to attend to. Today, he would visit a tailor, meaning he planned to change his wardrobe. But the visit wasn't for him. It was for Lorena. She had never been to a tailor or bought a dress, though she wanted to. Besides, the gentleman paid her well enough. Lorena had only one dress to wear outside. Such a thing was dishonourable for Duke Claven as a nobleman, and the maid was determined to fix that. After breakfast, they went to the city's only boutique. Emily, the owner, was grateful for his lordship's visit. "How can I help you?" she asked. Duke Claven wished to order several dresses for the lady. One dress would have been enough, but Lorena would have 5. One for each season. The boutique was known for exorbitant prices, and the clothes would be returned to the employer afterward. For a simple maid without documents or a name, 5 outfits were luxury. Lorena protested. She was a servant, not a lady-in-waiting, but Alien insisted. She would wear these dresses even if she washed the floors in them. Suddenly, the bell on the boutique door rang, an unwelcome presence. Why would a blind man go to such a place? A nasty voice sneered. This was the Crown Prince Xavier, heir to the throne, infamous for his rotten character. Even the Empress was said to be more ruler than he. Xavier's stench seemed to fill the room. He had no idea Elon had plans beyond this mansion, despite his blindness. The minor character bared his teeth in envy. He had always envied Elon. "What's going on there? Where's that noise coming from?" someone whispered. Emily said she'd check while the girls waited. The boutique owner returned and bowed. "Apologies, I was busy with a customer." Xavier sneered at Elon. "So, a blind animal can still pick clothes. Why does Elon need this? It'd be better if the wounded beast stayed in his estate and didn't waste strength." Ilon, ignoring the insult, pushed the brat away with a slight motion. "Worry about your own worthlessness," Ilon said coldly. "You only got your job because I was poisoned." Not everyone was destined for greatness, and Xavier's envy showed plainly. "How funny it is for Mr. Hulon to speak like that to the crown prince," Xavier sneered. Elon's head turned toward his guard. "He speaks as a pathetic, envious man deserves," Elon said. Though blind, Hélène was still mighty and unmatched in strength and swordsmanship. The guard was warned not to provoke him. Xavier tried to break into the fitting room where Lorena was changing, but Elon intercepted his wrist with lightning speed. Even predators aren't that fast. The villain froze in horror. Elon's fortitude, not his eyes, made him better. Xavier could never understand that. Plundered gathered. The crown prince had started a fight with a blind man. How cowardly. Xavier quickly retreated. "Let them all pick clothes for his chosen one," he spat, fleeing after the humiliated master. Elon chose the finest outfits without even touching the fabric. The crown prince's visit to the boutique was unlikely any time soon. After several grueling hours, Duke Claven's carriage was filled with new dresses. The silence inside was heavy. Suddenly, a knock at the door. The presence of that spawn, Exiave, made Lorena ready to tear him apart, even if it meant prison. Bernard agreed Xavier was a degenerate, unworthy even of mentioning Elon's name. No one cared about that brat at the estate. Lorena and Bernard swore to deal with him. She would knock him out, and Bernard would run him over with the carriage. Enough talk. What were Lorena and Bernard discussing? Recipes for decoctions. Lorena had found a way to cure Elon. Elon heard the words "rip open the belly" and thought they were insulting his intelligence. But insulting members of the imperial family was serious. Still, Bernard and Lorena were loyal subjects to the greatest warrior in the empire. If only Lorena were dressed properly, she would have given that coward a beating and emerged victorious, trophy in hand. Xavier's rotten tongue. Just then, cold rain began to fall again. Bernard brought Elon his umbrella, while Lorena waited in the carriage, still wet from yesterday's downpour. Why is the weather so bad? The heavy expression on the main character's face was unmistakable. "What's wrong, my lord?" Lorena asked. "Nothing to worry about," Elon said softly. He had twisted his ankle on the wet floor and was leaning on the maid. He didn't want to embarrass her. Lorena thought, let this moment last forever. A salty tear rolled down Ilan's cheek, but he quickly wiped it away. Tears fell onto his hands as he realized he needed to get home. The carriage roof was leaking, and Elon told Miss Lena he would go to bed early, leaving her free. "Damn Crown Prince," Lorena muttered. "Where did this rotten bastard come from? Such a man will rule the Empire, who hates the country and its people. It's a death sentence for the Empire." The nonsense had to be stopped. How dare this little rat insult the main character? Suddenly, Lorena remembered. The flower. Today was the last day. She almost forgot the most important thing. She rushed to pick the flower before it was too late. Karina was lucky. The flower usually withered as soon as it rained, but in Elon's garden it had survived much longer, as if waiting for her. But now the rain continued and things weren't going according to plan. Was she too late? Elon was in so much pain and hardship, Lorena was ready to give everything just to make him happy. She fell to her knees before the plant. "No!" The flower began to wither, its magical glow fading. "What have I done?" Tears streamed down her cheeks. She blamed herself, but took a deep breath and plucked the flower from the ground. She would not give up, not on Elon. Lorena swore to the main character she would help him at any cost. Bursting into the kitchen, she started banging pots and pans. There was no time. The medicinal decoction had to be made quickly, before the flower fully wilted. No one was left to help. The cook had gone home. Only one fire burned, in the Duke's private chambers. Lorena rushed in, apologizing to the master later. She needed the fire to brew the potion and was willing to face any consequences, even madness. She placed a vessel on the fire, threw in the flower petals, and hoped it would work. She had no idea if she was doing it right. She should have prepared better. Lorena closed herself off, crying quietly. She couldn't let Elon down. He didn't deserve this. The main character approached. Lorena didn't want to explain, but confessed she needed to make the decoction to help Elon. She was scared and felt she might have ruined everything. But the main character comforted her. There was no need to blame herself, yet. Elon shouldn't risk drinking something uncertain. Lorena didn't even know how to prepare it properly. It was an order from her employer. Lorena had tried so hard for Lilon. This was the least she could do. Offer him her brew. Tears froze in her violet eyes, as she wished nothing more than for Lillian's happiness. Her hands trembled, barely able to hold the vessel. The brew looked terrible and likely tasted worse. Yet the main character drank it all at once. What would Elon do? If the girl had made a mistake, could he risk his health like this? The young man smiled broadly. Elon had already said he was willing to drink anything from her hands. It was enough for the beast that Lorena cared so deeply. Her heart raced. It was a turning point, a hope for light in the darkness. But the end was not near. This was only the beginning. Meanwhile, in the imperial palace, the crown prince hurled a glass of wine against the wall. After several bottles, furniture went flying across the room in a furious storm. That damned beast, Elon, wore a smug grin that never left his face. Blind as he was, Elon was still better than Xavier. And today, Elon was happy. How dare he be happy? This infuriated the crown prince to no end. Elon continued to drive Xavier mad. Even though the heir to the throne could no longer see, the scarlet eyes of Odor still haunted him. Xavier had always admired eyes the colour of the sky, a calm, endless blue, because the sky rises above everything else. This colour suited Xavier like no other, but the true descendants of God bore scarlet eyes. This was why, since childhood, Xavier had been considered a scoundrel. Despite being the Emperor's blood son, he was never recognized by the gods. That meant Xavier was weak, unworthy. A crown prince without scarlet eyes was a disgrace to the dynasty. For the first time, a descendant of Odor was born in a collateral line. How could this be? Xavier was not worthy of Odor's recognition. The day Elon Clavon, the child who inherited the eyes of a god, was born, Xavier's world shattered. The entire court and nobility demanded the heir to the throne be a true, worthy descendant of Odor. They begged the emperor to adopt Elon and name him successor. Elon was the strongest in all generations. They must protect the greatness of the empire. Everyone knew Xavier was cowardly and rotten. The crown prince dismissed it as a half-forgotten legend. Everyone had decided to elect a new emperor instead of Xavier. Even his mother was sorry. She never wanted him born with such eyes. It was the scarlet eyes that drove the false crown prince crazy. Aelin was his death sentence. Then why had Xavier blinded this beast? Yet Elon had escaped that fate and still enjoyed life. The blind beast was still better than Xavier. Everyone knew it, though no one dared admit it. His Highness summoned the guards and closed the door behind them. Elion apparently had a lover. Xavier must know everything about this girl. It would be done. The crown prince wanted to strip the beast of everything and crush him into a hell from which he would never escape. The drunken, envious crown prince gulped more wine. The beast had no right to happiness. That very night, the protagonist awoke in unbearable hellish pain. A roar echoed through the estate. The beast was crying out in agony. Blood poured from Elon's eye sockets. The servants rushed in. Bernard asked in horror, "What has happened to our master? His eyes, they burn so much." Elon writhed in pain. Scarlet streams of blood flowed down his cheeks. What has the girl done? She won't survive if anything happens to him, especially if it's her fault. We still have some painkillers left. Let Larina bring them here immediately. This was the first time Erlan experienced such torment. Could it be that the main character suffered this agony because of the maid? Bernard carefully covered his master with a blanket. Ililan took a sleeping pill and a painkiller. This would help him rest a little and regain strength. Bernard turned to Larina. "We need to talk." The maid must have been terrified for the master. Bernard was worried but not scared. This happened often, but Larina had never seen anything like this before. This all started before Larina began working here. Whenever they tried to cure Elon's sight, he always endured unbearable pain. Hence the nickname, the Howling Beast. They had tried everything to restore his vision, but every attempt was met with furious screams of agony. Elon had even tried to scratch out his own eyes. Since then he was known as the Blind Beast. No medicine could help him. When Larina arrived, Ilan had lost all hope. He knew the consequences, that he would suffer hellish pain. Yet for her sake, he drank the potion without asking what exactly she had put in it. Larina should not blame herself. After all, she tried, for the sake of his lordship. But she couldn't shake the guilt. How could she be so careless? She had given the master a concoction she barely understood, something untested and nameless. Bernard grew suspicious of Larina despite her obvious care. Was it just a pretense to gain trust and harm Lilan? The truth would be decided when Lilin regained consciousness. The master would decide Larina's fate. Larina was ready. For now, Bernard would watch over Leon, and the maid must wait. How can you be so stupid and useless? Bernard thought bitterly. Larina had caused Elon such pain. The master had been poisoned many times before, but this was something else entirely. Tormented, Larina wandered until habit led her to Elon's chambers. Since she was already here, she might as well ask for forgiveness. Bernard stopped her. Elon wasn't sleeping. Better not disturb him now. Larina understood, but it hurt to see Lilan suffer so. She never imagined he'd endure such pain. Still, she believed Elon would see again, if only she could cure him, take away his pain and make his life bright. If the potion worked, the Duke might even make her mistress of the estate. But that wasn't her goal. She only wanted to help. The next morning, a scream rang out across the Earl of Harrington's estate. "Miss Karina is fine. What happened?" the maid nervously asked. The Crown Prince, Xavier, had been busy all day. He hadn't sent Karina any notes. Karina looked unwell. The main character fell to his knees, emerald eyes frozen in horror. How could Xavier do this to Karina, his true love? After they spent the night together, Xavier had ignored her for 4 days straight. No, it can't be. Karina's just imagining it. The Crown Prince is very busy. The maid prepared the carriage, voice steely. Karina immediately rushed to the Imperial Palace, the Crystal Palace, the Crown Prince's chambers. Few people worked in the Duke's palace. It was hard to keep track of Sir Elon. He rarely left the estate. Why did the heir to the throne call this a guard failure and call it an investigation? Larina's identity was unknown, hired through an agency, no records of her previous employment. "Let the spies continue their work," Xavier ordered. A woman with no documents, a dark horse, a criminal, a prisoner of war, or even a runaway gypsy. Curious for Elon's tastes, probably a concubine. The Crown Prince changed his mind. No surveillance. Bring that maid here personally. I want to see what the animal does when his favourite toy is taken away. There was a knock on His Majesty's private chambers. The butler reported, "Xavier is busy, but Miss Karina requests an audience." Karina Harrington, Xavier frowned, barely remembering her face. "Reject the request. By my order, everyone out." Xavier stepped on a portrait of Karina, scanning her description. Long blonde locks, ivory skin, violet eyes. Her features seemed familiar. Blue eyes flashed maniacally in his mind. The villain eagerly awaited their meeting. "How is Sir Elon?" Xavier demanded. "The gentleman is in an incomprehensible state. Usually pain and bleeding stop after 2 or 3 days. But Elon's been suffering for 6 days. Something new? It's all because Lorena brewed that potion incorrectly. His pain may never end. If Karina had brewed it, Elon would have recovered already. The master has one request. Buy chocolate from the Cardinal's Cafe, the one she and the maid shared." Bernard trusted Lorena. She rushed to get the chocolate, but suddenly stopped and turned back. "Let Elon be patient a little longer. I'll be back soon." Bernard smiled. She's like a soldier on an important mission. Elon had sent her away so she wouldn't witness his suffering. At the cafe, a red-haired girl in a white robe hid her face under a hood. Elon hadn't eaten in a week. It would be good if he could at least eat some chocolate. Lorena's return was urgent. As she stepped onto the main square, someone grabbed her hand. She spun around in fear, expecting trouble. But it was Iris. Iris took off her hood. Lorena didn't recognize her. Why did Iris know her? Lorena was in trouble again. She'd only gone out for chocolate. Iris's bitter tears fell as she held Lorena's hand, promising to help restore her memory. 2 more figures in white robes approached. Sectarians? What did they want from a simple servant? This was the sanctuary of the main temple in the capital, where priests were trained to hear the voice of God. Among them was Alicia Uther, known as the true diamond of the noble Uther family. Alicia entered the temple at age 3 and led 100 believers. Her beauty and saintly reputation were unmatched. Lorena wasn't Alicia. The priests were mistaken, but the holy power insisted this was Lady Alicia. Lorena shivered. Was that static electricity? Or just stress? Alicia certainly didn't remember anything. Iris squeezed her hand again. "I'll help you regain your memory." Elon grew tired of waiting for chocolate. That was enough impressions for one day. Lorena had to return to Elon. She had obligations here. Fate had determined it. Suddenly, a middle-aged woman with violet eyes appeared, resembling Lorena. Tears came to her eyes. She hugged Lorena, believing she had found her lost daughter. The woman prayed for this reunion. Alicia was alive and safe, despite her lost memory. Lorena wanted to know if the temple servants could prove she was Alicia. This was crucial to her future. The setting sun's rays broke through the window of Elon's bedroom. The blind beast let out a dull roar of pain. This time the agony was unlike any before, worse than ever. Bernard entered. "The pain has lessened, but he's very thirsty. He's never suffered so much before." Ilan sighed deeply. "Where is Lorena?" Bernard bit his lip. "She's deliberately staying longer. It's hard to hear the beast screams all day. I'll send 3 people to the cafe. If she's not there, they'll search nearby." And Elon lay in his soft bed, a refuge from the outside world, writhing in pain, drowning in darkness and loneliness. He missed Lorena's care, but also wanted to protect her from seeing his suffering. In the past, the greatest warrior would have seen concern as pity and insult. Elon didn't understand then how care was a sign of love. He could never have imagined needing someone's care so badly. If only Lorena would come back soon. Elon was waiting for her with all his heart. Meanwhile, the girl wandered through the vast temple, accompanied by her new acquaintances. Figures from her character's forgotten past. The temple was enormous and majestic, with thick bindweed creeping over everything. Where had these women brought her? What kind of place was this? There was absolutely nothing in her fragmented memories about it. Alicia decided to follow Iris. She needed proof to believe their words. The red-haired temple attendant held up a mirror and asked Alicia to remove her clothes for a moment. "What? What kind of request is this? We've only known each other for less than a day," Alicia protested. "Iris, at least invite me to dinner first." Iris sighed impatiently but began to pull off her own robe. "They need to see your back," she said. "Let them explain first. Enough with the empty chatter." The motherly woman held the mirror up to Alicia's shoulder blade, revealing a mark. "What is that? A tattoo?" Iris exhaled heavily. "It's not a tattoo." She took off her own robe and exposed her shoulder. Alicia examined the back of her new acquaintance closely. The mark was the same. A special scar. A priest's mark. A sign of recognition by God. This mark appeared in that area like a birthmark when a priest chosen by God underwent their initiation ceremony. Laura had no idea this plotline even existed. She had taken over this character's body a year ago, but only now was she learning about its original owner. After all, she'd been too busy helping the main character to dig deeper. Lady Alicia had managed to remember at least something. Apparently, she really was the Alicia everyone talked about. But this could only mean one thing. The real Alicia had died. So Laura took over her body. And besides, Laura definitely did not hear the voice of God. She was not the great Alicia. Iris was also a priestess, which meant she could hear the divine voice. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been admitted to the Hoodoo temple. If Laura was Alicia, then she should be able to hear the divine voice too, but she couldn't. Why had she lost her memory? How did she end up on the riverbank? An elderly couple had found her and nursed her back to health. This couldn't be Alicia. She had been found on the banks of the Liron River. What about their faces? Laura wondered. Lady Alicia had been on her way to Groves for the weekend when her crew and escort were attacked. The attackers were brutal, killing every single member on the spot. How were they killed? Laura asked. It looked like a deliberate assassination attempt, militant style. Iris explained. Laura definitely found herself in a romantic novel, but she didn't remember any of this. She wasn't much of a reader anyway. The lake was a week's carriage ride from here, and the road was dangerous. Judging by the dates, Laura took over Alicia's body around the time the real Alicia disappeared. Maybe she wasn't Alicia at all, but she had seen the mark herself. After contemplating the sacred sign, how could she deny it? "You shout like that?" Iris asked softly. "You've learned enough for today. It's time for you to return to the estate." Of course, Laura wanted to know more, but she didn't want to worry Elon. The motherly woman sighed heavily, looking at Laura with concern. "Where has your little girl been all this time? We searched for Alicia all over the Empire and never found her. In the end, everyone decided she drowned in the mountain river." "She was just a maid at the estate of the Duke of Claven," Iris added. "By the way, she was making a good living. Today she went out on his behalf, so it's time for her to return." "How can Alicia not understand that her real home is here?" the woman whispered. "It's her destiny and duty." No matter how many times they said it, Laura knew she would never abandon the main character. No matter the cost, it was clear to them both. The mother squeezed Laura's shoulders tightly. She cannot return to the mansion of Duke Claven. Meanwhile, deep into the night in the Empire, the question remained, where was this irresponsible girl? The manager was busy preparing the evening service in the kitchen. Inside, his poor master Elon was writhing in unbearable pain that refused to subside. Though the agony gave Elon brief moments of rest and sleep, no matter how strong his lordship was, if this pain continued, Elon feared he might lose his mind. Bernard, the manager, had seen many hardships, but even he was deeply scared and pained for his master. Then suddenly the roar of the wounded beast, the signal of another attack, stopped. The manager hurried to his master, but no matter how much Bernard searched the city, he could not find Lorena. When would she finally return? After all, The maid had been supposed to visit the cafe on the main square. So where had she gone? Bernard looked guiltily at his young master. He had nothing to offer to please him, and Lorena was still nowhere to be seen. Suddenly, Bernard heard a voice. Ilan's voice. The shouts had stopped. The protagonist lifted his head, and his scarlet eyes, those glowing eyes of odor, shone brightly once again. His vision had returned. The greatest warrior of the empire, the descendant of a god, was back. Ilan could see once more, and it was clear. Lorena had saved him. Bernard collapsed to the floor, stunned and overjoyed. "My lord can see again," he whispered, barely believing it. Ilan rose from his bed, unsteady but determined. He knew he shouldn't act like a hero just yet. He had been ill for so long, confined to his bed by unbearable torment, clearly weakened and in need of time to recover. Bernard promised to help him, and Ilan was deeply grateful for his loyalty. Bernard had never left his side. A tear slipped down Bernard's cheek. He was truly honoured to serve such a man, and genuinely happy for his recovery. Ilan couldn't yet stand without his cane and would need time to adjust, but this was a moment of happiness. Bernard had always believed Ilan's sight would return. After all, he was the brightest and most worthy of Odor's descendants. But speaking of this miraculous healing of vision, where was the saviour herself? Why hadn't Lorena returned to the estate? It was already night outside. The church had heard the news. Ilan had returned. But hadn't the archbishop gone to Grosser to investigate Alicia's disappearance? A temple servant stared at his interlocutor, shocked, indicating he knew nothing. Lady Alicia returned to the temple yesterday, someone explained. She was found near a local cafe in the capital's main square. Iris wishes to introduce Lady Alicia to our Archbishop, Sir Alahan. The Archbishop had a strong, determined look, silver hair and dark eyes. His powerful aura was undeniable, even to Lorena, who was pleased to meet him. But the Archbishop's expression was unreadable. Why did Alejandra look at Alicia that way? What had she done? Maybe she had refused him or offended him somehow. "May the blessing of the 5 gods of Odor be upon the young miss," the Mother Alicia bowed politely, "and may their blessings be upon the Archbishop." Judging by Alicia's forgotten greeting, she had also forgotten how bad things truly were. Many memories were missing from her mind, even her own name. The Archbishop looked carefully at Alicia. What had happened to her hair? It appeared cut short. Lorena was confused. Iris quickly explained. All priests bleach the ends of their hair to symbolize their determination to become the voice of God. Alicia's hair had been bleached, but now it seemed natural again. How frustrating. After losing her memory, Alicia no longer heard the voice of God. She had the mark, but not the divine voice. Perhaps she remembered only the secret first phrase needed to become a priest of their temple, but nothing more. The Archbishop's face darkened like a thundercloud. "What are we to do with Alicia?" he asked. The mother was at a loss. Alicia did not hear the voice of God, did not remember the secret words from her first insight. She would not be able to become a priest. "How is that possible?" the mother whispered. Alicia was meant to become the next archbishop. It was her destiny. Apparently the gods no longer favoured Alicia, yet she still bore the mark. The gods had not abandoned her. The archbishop's final decision was clear. Alicia would be excommunicated from the temple. "This is all a bad dream," the mother insisted. "Alicia's place is here. Everyone knows it. Why was Alejandro doing this?" The mother begged for mercy, asking that Alicia be allowed to stay in her she. "The sanctuary will decide regarding Alicia's excommunication," the archbishop replied. Why was the mother so upset? Alicia wouldn't receive the sacred title, but she was alive and well. Was the archbishop's position truly so rigid? Alicia was only 20 years old. The mother demanded a promise. If Alicia regained her memory, there would be no excommunication. She was serious and would not give up easily. But the Archbishop said it was not his decision alone. The Duchess must understand it was unknown whether Alicia would ever hear the voice of God again. All the servants could do was wait and let the will of the 5 gods of Oda be done. Until then, Lady Alicia Uther would be excommunicated from the Temple of Hada and forced to leave. Alicia herself had been planning to leave, so why the drama? Why was the mother so distraught? Alicia was only 20. There would be other paths. Lorena didn't even know what to say. The Duchess needed to be calmed. This wasn't Lorena's fault, but it didn't make things any easier. This was probably how parents felt when their child failed to graduate from the best school. Lorena felt sorry that Alicia had lost her memory, but she would live happily, and that was the most important thing. Anyone has their own path. Alicia would work hard and make up for lost time. There was no reason to be sad. "Let Mother start teaching Lorena," the woman said. "She is capable and will catch up quickly." The woman immediately rushed to hug the girl. What a day of emotional scenes! The beloved daughter wanted so much to please her mother, but remembered nothing, not even herself. "Let the girl just trust the Duchess," the woman whispered. "She will come up with something." The girl carefully and slowly placed her hand on Duchess Uther's shoulder and asked about Elon before squeezing it tightly. It felt like Lorena herself was about to burst into tears. At the main square, in the Cardinal Café, sat a young man of incredible beauty and strength. A clumsy waitress dropped a cup of hot tea and hurried to clean it up. She was embarrassed but focused on tidying the table. Her cheeks flushed when she looked at the young man. How handsome he was. Was that even possible? "It's fine, the waitress can leave," Ilan said, noticing the attention. She was nowhere to be found. A horde of curious ladies had gathered around Elon, wondering who this handsome young man was. It was noisy, filled with female voices. Elin thought Lorena had romanticized reality. The tables were old and dirty, the curtains faded and long unwashed. Yes, Lorena had definitely lied to him. Everything here was far more inconspicuous. The main character entered the cafe and met the same young man who had sold chocolate to Lorena. Elon was searching for the girl. 3 days ago, Lorena had ordered their signature chocolate from Cardinal. The chocolates were popular gifts and many people bought them. The young man couldn't remember everyone, but this girl's appearance was very distinctive. What did she look like? He had never seen her in person, but Lorena had described her to him. Dark skin, red hair, blue eyes. She had unusual facial features. A girl with such a remarkable appearance should be unforgettable. Yet the young man drew a blank. "I'm sorry," he said. "I don't recall anyone like that." That was all Ilan needed to know from him. He was grateful and paid the man generously. Apparently, the Duke had come too late. How could he find this girl? Bernard wondered, pleading with Ilan to rest. His eyes hadn't fully recovered, and exerting himself might cause irreparable harm. If Lorena knew Ilan had lost his sight again while searching for her, she would be heartbroken. Bernard's words made sense. Elon did not want to hurt her. But it had been so long since they last met. Where could she be? "Let Cedric send Duke Claven to the messenger," Ilan ordered. "As you wish, my lord," Cedric replied, a knight loyal to the great Duke Claven. Cedric was exhausted after 2 days without sleep, but glad to serve such a pious man. He knocked on a door and was let in. They had come to the right place. They needed a group of mercenaries who specialized in tracking missing people. Cedric sent 2 young men inside to begin the search. The main character went downstairs. It was noisy and crowded inside. Men drank wine and told crude jokes. Elon was looking for someone. If she is in the capital, the fee for finding her is 100 gold coins. Additional locations will cost more. The price depends on how far we need to search. Elon threw a heavy bag containing 1,000 gold coins onto the bar. The man behind the counter was speechless. "This should cover all expenses," Elon said. "Who are you looking for such a large sum?" Elon is looking for a girl named Lorena. She's 27, with shoulder-length red hair and blue eyes. Just so you know, she is a runaway wife. The guild doesn't force people who don't want to come back, the man said. Lorena isn't his wife, then this is easier. We'll manage. The protagonist left with Cedric. My lord has one more task tonight, Cedric said attentively. There aren't many people in the capital. Lorena couldn't just vanish. Someone must have seen her. Suddenly, the sound of broken dishes and unbridled rage erupted from the Crown Prince's private chambers. What did he just say? Someone muttered. The future ruler is hearing nonsense, another said. How could some girl disappear right under the Imperial Guard's noses? Is she a ninja or something? Lorena barely left the estate. Scouts had searched the servants' quarters. She was nowhere. It was as if she had evaporated into thin air. Are they complete idiots? Someone hissed. Lorena's things could be in Elon's chambers, but she wasn't there either. For some reason, Elon didn't share a bed with a servant. The maid only brought food, and they talked for a long time, but didn't spend the night together. Then why had Elon bought her so many outfits? They had nothing in common. If she was just a servant, not a concubine, what was the point? The beast grabbed Xavier's hand with obvious rage and possessiveness. Elon made it very clear. The Crown Prince should never touch his woman. Let those fools find this girl, even if it cost their lives. That was clear. The woman so desired by the beast would become the best prey for the heir to the throne. He needed her.